and some really great writers who've written good. And I think that's why I felt I wanted to write. I want to reach that one person that I'm responsible for, so that they can maybe learn something from me. It's not about having a big audience. It's about having that one young woman at 21 who reads a book and finds out a truth and a theory that she can apply to the rest of her life, you know. And that to me was the beauty of that learning, and it's had to be reapplied in many ways. But it's also my passion of why I write. I love the words that and then you can read them again and again, you know.
All right. Unless there's a question, we will just say that's finished then. Thank you again very much for all your questions and for pulling all this wisdom from her. So what's next? What happens now?
Oh, we go and celebrate at home, and we go and celebrate this. Yeah. What
Before you go home, you have to sit down and sign some books, I think.
Oh, right.
Oh, and by the way, you have to talk about these guys here. You have to talk about this. You have a display back here.
I don't like selling my books. I shouldn't say that here, should I? If you approach me, never mind. Yeah, what? You can buy any of these books. I will quickly explain them. Have You Seen Candace was the first book, and it's about the first year when Candace disappeared, and people still want to read it because it's so raw. It's where I'm fighting for the first handles of forgiveness and starting to apply them to this new situation. And then I went into deep anger. And people would say, well, why don't you just forgive? And I went to family survivors from homicide, and they would come back from their churches and from the people that loved them, and they would be just trembling. They said, people just want us to forgive and move on, and we can't. And then I had other people asking me, well, why can't they move on? What's so hard? And so I actually sat in a support group and wrote down the issues. Now, what is it so hard? To identify the issue. And so I went into a very dark time, and that's when I wrote Confronting the Horror, and it explores 15 issues that people have to go through when they experience murder. It's not a bestseller, and it looks very grim. It looks very grim. But it has gone to universities, and it has done its thing out there, and I think it's informed the right people that can actually read it. And then my grandmother was another person who helped me through forgiveness. Her stepsister disappeared during the Russian Revolution, so she moved into BC, and she never knew where her sister was. So I remember her crying over her sister, Tante Lisa. I loved my grandmother, and during all this time, I wanted to go close to Grandma, but Grandma was dead. So the one way to do it is to imagine my grandmother. And another thing is that people were coming to me just like they came to Grandmother with their stories, and I didn't know what to do with these stories, so I fictionalized them and put them into my Greendale community, and they came to Grandmother, and Grandmother helped them. And so that's what these two Ava series are about. They're about my grandmother who saw an angel, and all these people coming down the path. It's kind of, but I put all my wisdoms and my learning, so in many ways they're also part of this journey of trying to figure out what's going on through my grandmother. I've got 2 of those books. And then I was discovered by Malcolm Gladwell, who came to, oh, that's a long story, but anyway, out of that came The Way of Letting Go, where I was asked to define how to let go of the 15 elements. So the 15 elements are identified in Confronting the Horror, and the way of letting go of them came out in The Way of Letting Go. So I think that's it. And now Project Angel, which is really about the trials and my way of surviving the trials. So thank you. My life is kind of laid bare. Some people still ask me, how did you do it? Well, I think, oh, I've written it all down. I don't ever have to answer that question again. Thank you so much for coming.
All right. So thank you very much, everybody.